nerds, I'm Hendo, and today we're making the Cocktail of Flying based on the potion from Dungeons & Dragons. Every month this year I've made a different prop and cocktail based on a different potion from D&D, and this is the last one for 2020, the Potion of Flying. We're using vodka and Sambuca for this cocktail, and it's hopefully gonna look like a pretty blue sky. I'll cover the lore behind this potion, the ingredients we're gonna use, and the recipe. So let's get started. The Potion of Flying is a very rare potion that gives you a fly speed equal to your walking speed for 1 hour. This is different from the fly spell, which gives you a baseline flying speed of 60 feet. If the potion wears off while you're midair, you will fall unless you have other means of staying afloat. Despite this being a very rare potion, I see it a lot in campaigns because I think DMs just think it's fun to use. My campaign has definitely used it to help out our really heavily armored party members so that they can get a little bit of an advantage on their stealth checks. Since it's really expensive, it might make sense to go and try and sell it in town and commission instead a pair of winged boots or a broom of flying. But I'm sure it's also fun just to give your party a little bit of a taste of a skill, but not give them full access to it. One benefit of the potion is that it doesn't require attunement. We've definitely force-fed one to a really large villain that was too difficult and stubborn to drag back to town, so he was just kind of like our little floating evil villain balloon. Anyway, lots of uses for the Potion of Flying. It's a clear fluid with little floating white impurities in it. I felt like that wouldn't look very visually appealing in a cocktail, so instead we're just gonna go with a kind of flying symbolism homage thing by making a blue cocktail with a little cloud and wings. So let's go check out our ingredients. Here are our ingredients. We are once again using vodka. It smells and tastes like college, but I will admit that in a cocktail it's a really good additive. It adds alcohol without really clashing flavor. This time we're going with Absolut, which has been around since 1879 and is from Sweden. It takes exactly 2 pounds of wheat to make a single bottle of Absolut vodka. Absolut can also be considered a locavore, which means that it sources from locally grown food. Absolut's luxury brand Elixir is actually made 100% from wheat from this city. I don't know how to pronounce this. Your letters have too much drip for me, but it looks so cool. In fact, Absolut is pretty focused on its reputation as a green company. The bottles are made from 40% recycled glass, resulting carbon dioxide is actually bottled and sold to beverage companies, and leftover wheat residue is used as livestock feed. I don't know if they're motivated by profit, appearance, or genuine ethics, but the result's pretty cool, so thanks Absolut. We're also using Sambuca. I hope that's how you pronounce it. Sambuca is a liqueur made from anise, usually star anise, and it has to have a minimum of a 38% alcohol by volume ratio in order to be a true Sambuca. It's very strong, semi-sweet, and often served con la mosca, which means with the fly. And that just means that it's usually served with 3 little floating coffee beans. Sometimes the top is even set on fire, which toasts the beans, and you can chew them after you take a shot. In general, Sambuca is very often paired with coffee, and some people describe it as a candy-like or licorice-flavored liquor. They call it licorice. We are again using blue Curacao, which is just an orange liqueur that's dyed blue. It actually comes in lots of different colors, but its natural state is colorless. Blue is just the most famous one, and it's dyed with E133 Brilliant Blue. I won't take you guys on the 2 a.m. tangent I went on about chemistry and like colorants and dyes and stuff, but Brilliant Blue is one of the oldest ones approved by the FDA. But now some companies are trying to replace this synthetic dye with a more natural one, even though it's a bit less of a brilliant blue. One example is Smarties from the UK, which I guess is like chocolate M&Ms here, kind of. Smarties are a completely different kind of candy here. The gimmicky part of our cocktail is going to be floating cream on top. Heavy whipping cream is the best kind because the buoyancy is just right for a cocktail. If you use something like just milk, it's going to almost immediately dissolve. Heavy cream is basically the high-fat portion of raw dairy. And you guessed it, you can whip this bovine booby juice to make whipped cream. We're also using cotton candy, or floss, if you're wrong. Just kidding. I assume floss actually makes a lot more sense because cotton candy was invented by a dentist named Dr. Morrison in 1897. The candy's also made up of a zillion little tiny individual strands. They're actually finer than human hair. So actually floss might be a more apt name. In the US we call it cotton candy, in Finland or Australia they call it fairy floss. It's called suikerspin in the Netherlands, which means sugar spider. Get it together, Netherlands. And I guess in France it's called barbe à papa, which means papa's beard, which is still better than spiders, so Cotton candy is pure sugar that's liquefied and then spun in a machine. As it separates and cools, it becomes individual strands of sugar. But the most important thing to know about cotton candy is that it's in my favorite raccoon gift that I 1000% look up when I'm having a case of the existential sads. Look at him, he looks so betrayed. Finally, you will need a tall, narrow glass like a highball glass and some ice. That's just gonna help with the floating effect. I also have these little edible wing garnishes because I saw them and they're cute and they're gonna be perfect. All right, let's get mixing. Okay, let's make our flying cocktail. Since it's a floating cocktail, it's actually all gonna be made in the glass. The first thing we're gonna do is add some ice. Now it's 1.5 ounces of vodka. Now 1 ounce of blue Curacao. We're gonna try and float this by pouring it over the back of a spoon. That'll help slow its fall, as will the ice. It's so blue. There's a really small ice cube, so I'm adding more. Now 1.5 ounces of the Sambuca. And you're gonna wanna flip that too. Finally, it's the heavy whipping cream. This is mostly a gimmick, so just add as much as you want to actually use. I'm gonna start with 1/4 ounce. I think that I might have chilled mine too much. It's not quite as runny as it usually is. Oh, there we go. And you're gonna wanna use a little spoon to mix it a tiny bit to get it to swirl so it looks like clouds in the sky. Now we'll garnish with our little piece of cotton candy. This is bagged cotton candy, so it's not quite as poofy as I would like, but it should still work. I'm gonna separate it a tiny bit at the bottom so that it can hang on the rim of the glass. I'm also gonna add my edible wing cake toppers. They're actually pretty thick and sturdy, so they kind of just fit right in there. Ta-da! It's a little cocktail of flying! So, full disclosure, I've already tried this cocktail and I hated it because I don't like the taste of licorice. Also, I didn't know that licorice is spelled like this in the United States. Apparently, I've been spelling it the British way. They're right on this one. Just this one, though. I will try it again in case something is different and just for the sake of continuity here. When you serve the drink, you're probably gonna wanna mix it up all the way, otherwise you're just gonna get cream from the very top, you know? It tastes like licorice, I can't do it. But it's really pretty. So for those of you who also don't like the taste of licorice, I'm just gonna add a tiny bit of blue Curacao to prosecco and do the same garnish, and that's gonna be for me. But that wouldn't have made for an interesting video, so. Ta-da! Yeah, it's way more manageable. Hell yeah! But also, anyway, boom! You have a really cool looking cocktail of flying. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you get to enjoy this with your party online or just chilling at home. If you're looking for a prop version of this cocktail, you can also check out that video, hopefully next week. I also still have to post the prop potion of mind reading, and I promise I'll get to that soon. I've been a little bit burnt out this year, but I am just barely sneaking this one in at the end of 2020. And thanks for hanging out with me through this series. It was a fun thing to give a try, just to kind of get new skill points and talk about D&D while I'm broken and quarantined, so thanks for being here. This is going to be the end of this series, but I'll probably start another one at some point. I'd really like to dabble in D&D weapons and magical items, so stay tuned for some of that. But anyway, thanks for making this cocktail of flying with me. I'm Hendo. Thanks for D&D drinking with me.